Hi, my name's Will Hodges, and I am Tactile Turn. Today I want to talk about some of the materials that I'm using in these Tactile Turn Gist pins. So the first material is polycarbonate reinforced with fiberglass. It's a pretty cool material. It's been used in a few fountain pens that are pretty well known, the Lambing 2000. It's an amazing material. It's got just the right amount of strength for it. It's pretty shatter resistant. Right now I want to talk about the materials that I am using, but in a few seconds I'll talk about some materials that I don't want to use. And one of the best qualities about polycarbonate that's reinforced with fiberglass is that it does have some sort of, it's got some shock. You know, there are lots of plastics that if you run into issues where, you know, it gets slammed down on the ground or stepped on, they just shatter. Polycarbonate does a really good job of having some sort of, or some rubbery characteristics. The next material is 360 brass. 360 brass is a pretty commonly used material for all sorts of stuff. It's pretty strong. It's pretty heavy. It's got a great character as far as color goes. Patinas over time turns a little yellowy, and it's generally just a beautiful material. It's great to work with too. It's one of the sort of ideal things to machine. Talk to any machinist that's worked with brass and they love it. But it also makes it a joy to make materials or make pens out of. The next one is 145 copper. It's actually it's got some alloys in it that or some other elements in it that make it especially easy to machine compared to some of the other alloys of copper. It's extremely heavy. It's the heaviest of the materials that these pens are made out of. It also is the most likely to gain some really cool patina. Over time, it'll turn some really cool colors, and some of you guys are probably interested in forcing patina. Copper, obviously, is the one to go for on that. Next one is 316L stainless steel. It's the most corrosion resistant of the stainless steels. Really hard to work with. Actually harder to work with in a lot of scenarios than titanium. It's a really hard material, just incredibly tough, and the fact that it's the most corrosion resistant is really nice for the corrosion sort of causing inks that are in fountain pens. Up next is bronze. Bronze is a really kind of weird material. This is 954 bronze, also known as aluminum bronze. It's a really tough material to work with. Not quite as tough as stainless steel, but when it's being machined, you can hear the machine groaning a little bit. It's a really tough material also. The next one is grade 5 titanium. It's lightweight, super strong, puts up with anything, just very slow to machine, so it takes a fair amount of time. Next material is 702 zirconium. It's a really cool material. It's very similar in characteristics to titanium. The only difference is that once you put a flame to it, put a fairly hot heat on it, it turns this really dark gray color. It's really cool. That dark gray color is also extremely wear resistant. And the last one, this you might not be able to see a whole lot here, but this is Damascus Steel. It's an incredibly expensive material. It's pretty tough. It's about the same kind of toughness as 316L stainless steel. And it looks like nothing special until you etch it. So right now this bar looks like nothing. When it gets etched, it has this crazy characteristic you'll see in the pictures. Then there are a few materials that I want to talk about that I decided not to use. One that I really wanted to use, but I can't really for this design, is G10. It's fiberglass that's basically encased in epoxy. Really cool material, ridiculously rigid for what it is, very lightweight, very strong, but it's not very strong when the walls are too thin. You have to make walls thicker, otherwise the fiberglass delaminates from the epoxy, turns this weird, it just doesn't work. It sort of starts shattering. In thicker applications, it's ridiculously strong for the weight that it is, but it just doesn't work with this design. Aluminum. Aluminum works great for non-fountain pens, but for fountain pens, it's not a material that I want to work with. Fountain pens, a lot of the inks are extremely corrosion causing, and all these other materials are either ridiculously corrosion resistant or they are extremely easy to polish. You know, the brass and the copper, they might have some problems, but you can easily just polish that off. Aluminum, not so much. It actually eats into the material a little bit too much. And I didn't want to do anodizing. Anodizing, when you do threads and stuff, the anodizing comes off on those little areas and then just starts eating away at the rest of it, and it's just not a good solution. I do not think aluminum is a good material for fountain pens, so I decided not to use it. Micarta is really cool. It's cloth with epoxy. It's a lot like G10. Very hard to work with. Same exact problems. Once you start doing thin walls, it delaminates. It's a pretty cool material, and I definitely want to work with it in the future, but it's just not worth doing for this. Those are all the materials.